Your host. My name is Dr. Amy Carter, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Education Services. The Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan is all part of the larger program planning and accountability cycles run by the state of California. For many years now, we've been funded through the Local Control Funding Formula and Accountability Model, which is the LCFF. This legislation changed how we are funded and how our results are measured and holds schools accountable for differentiated services to allow our most at-risk students to succeed to their greatest potential. In addition, we are held responsible for a Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP. This is a 3-year plan that focuses on state and local priorities and outlines goals, actions, services, and expenditures that support student well-being and achievement. The LCAP must be reviewed annually.
Ese tiene que ser revisado anualmente.
Year, NUSD would have concluded the 1920 accountability plan by
El distrito escolar novato hubiera cumplido su plan y hubiéramos creado nuevos planes y hubiéramos creado un nuevo plan.
planning from 2020 to 2023. NUSD had begun this work in the early part of 2020 and had meetings with various stakeholder groups to get input and to create new plans. However, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the state of California is adjusting those requirements for school districts. In March of 2020, Governor Newsom issued an executive order which mandated shelter in place, and school campuses were closed, and NUSD switched to a distance learning program for the remaining of the school year. Accountability requirements were then altered for 1920. The annual review and 2023 LCAP were no longer required to be submitted. California Department of Education instead required that school districts submit a COVID-19 written report to their school board for approval on June of 2020. The purpose of the report was to document how our school districts was responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. In a normal year, following Governor Newsom's change in the COVID-19 response plan, California legislatures took action related to the LCAP as well. During the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a scheduled off cycle for the LCAP for years 2020 to 2021. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, California State Senate Bill 98 reworked the parameters for operating schools and fulfilling accountability requirements. Instead of a 2021 LCAP, school districts are now required to complete a Learning Continuity and Accountability Learning Plan, or LCP, at the start of the year. The LCP template memorializes the planning process which has already been underway for the 2021 school year. Although NUSD will not be completing an LCAP for the 2021 school year, the actions from the previous LCAP that has been deemed successful will be included in the LCP. There are several steps that NUSD must complete in writing the LCP. The LCP template has been published by the California Department of Education, and it requires that we gather stakeholder input from the NUSD community, parents, students, staff, and community members, our Parent Advisory Committee, or PAC, our district English language, Language Acquisition Committee, or DLAC. After those meetings, we are to hold a public hearing prior to presenting the LCP to the NUSD Board of Trustees. Adoption of the LCP by NUSD Governing Board must occur by September 30th, 2020. The report is then submitted as adopted to the Marin County Office of Education. MCOE may submit recommendations to make changes to the plan to NUSD by October 30th, 2020. The NUSD Governing Board must review those recommendations and decide to make revisions to the plan at a public meeting. Subsequently, we will post the LCP on the NUSD website in both English and Spanish. The LCP is made up of 8 sections. This includes general information, stakeholder engagement, continuity of learning plans, and this includes an in-person instructional offering plan, distance learning program plan, pupil learning loss plan. It includes a mental health and social emotional well-being plan, pupil and family engagement and outreach plan, school nutrition plan, and additional actions which are not included in the other sections to carry out the LCP. And finally, a section for increased or improved services for foster youth, English language learners, and low-income students. There's no question that the pandemic had a significant impact on NUSD. In response to COVID-19's pandemic and Governor Newsom's shelter-in-place executive order issued on March of 2020, NUSD quickly recognized the scale of the challenges school closure presented. We prioritized tasks and implemented actions to support students and their families. All decisions were made with input and guidance from public health agencies, California Department of Education, California education laws and code, the Marin County Office of Education, community organizations, NUSD's Board of Trustees, district parents, advisory groups, central office personnel, school staff, students, and parents. NUSD continues to create adaptable strategies to support distance learning, social emotional welfare, meal service, and communication to minimize the repercussions and challenges of COVID-19 on the community, especially those students with unique needs. Similar to education program planning and accountability reporting cycles, stakeholder input is an ongoing process in NUSD. We utilize a variety of methods to solicit input from stakeholder groups. We recognize that stakeholders invest time in providing input and take contributors' views seriously to build a comprehensive collection of information to support decision making. To plan for the 2021 school year, NUSD created a reentry task force consisting of over 150 parents, students, staff, and community members. Team members met through the summer to support the creation of the comprehensive school reentry guidance plan. Additionally, the crowdsourcing program, Thought Exchange, was used repeatedly to solicit input from a variety of stakeholders. NUSD received feedback from 2,450 stakeholders who shared 3,450 thoughts. NUSD's comprehensive reentry plan is a dynamic document aimed at helping guide and inform the entire learning community, and it can be found on our NUSD website. Part of the law for the LCP document is to include stakeholder input. This is to ensure that all school districts provide the community with the opportunity to provide input while developing the LCP. The California Department of Education requires input from specific groups. The input that is required for the LCP includes NUSD community, parents, students, staff, and community members, Parent Advisory Committee, District English Language Acquisition Committee, or DLAC, the NUSD Board of Trustees, and the Marin County Office of Education. All of this input is used to inform the continuity of learning plan. The goal of a continuity learning plan is to overcome obstacles through innovative means of teaching, engaging students in learning, and making decisions that minimize any disruption in a student's education. In the midst of the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic, schools still need to provide learning programs for students. Through the Learning Continuity Plan, the California Department of Education is requesting school districts to communicate how they will support continuity of learning in person and remotely. Also, how schools transition from remote-only instruction to a hybrid model to fully in-person learning while minimizing pupil learning loss. Let's start by discussing in-person instructional offerings. First of all, this flexible in-person instruction. NUSD has created instructional models for hybrid and in-person approaches to learning that can adapt to meet the recommendations and requirements as established by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and the Marin County Department of Health and Human Services. This plan works to enable schools to transition from remote-only instruction to a hybrid model and to a fully in-person learning environment. The timeline to implement hybrid or in-person programs depends on local health conditions and how the community, state, and nation adapts and recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of the considerations for a flexible learning program include all student schedules are designed to expand or compress as needed to meet the current health and safety mandates and protocols. The majority of NUSD's most recent adopted core curriculum includes both print and digital versions for students. Newly acquired online programs will support different instructional models. Established assessments such as NWEA, MAP, and ESGI can be administered in person or remotely. Students will be administered a universal screener in math and English language arts in September to monitor potential learning loss between the virtual, hybrid, and in-person learning. Online intervention programs will be available to students with unique needs and those who require extra support to make adequate progress. In addition, student cohorts of approximately 25 have been created district-wide. Depending on safety regulations, NUSD can bring students back to campus in smaller groups without disturbing the entire system. In a hybrid model, students with unique needs should be given priority to return to campus to obtain consistent designated supports to minimize learning loss. When the Novato Unified School District is permitted to reopen campuses, the following protocols will be in place to support the health and safety of both students and staff. Established cohorts, essential protective equipment for all staff and students, face coverings for all staff and students, contact tracing systems, daily health and safety checks, one-way movement through campus, social distancing between students and staff, increased scheduled cleaning and sanitation, and compliance with all local and state mandates. For the distance learning program to facilitate the continuity of learning through remote learning for the 2021 school year, NUSD will continue to fortify a distance learning program in the following ways: access to devices and connectivity. In preparation for the 2021 school year, NUSD has reallocated Chromebooks to second graders and a limited number of iPads for kindergarten through first students who need them. Foster care, homeless, English language learners, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students were given priority access to devices. Wi-Fi connection. This is an area closely monitored by NUSD's prevention coordinator, who works with an I2 counterpart to maintain rosters of all students to monitor both the device and the connectivity needs of NUSD students and address them in a responsive manner. Virtual and online support. In the spring of 2020, NUSD created videos in English and Spanish to support parents and students in how to navigate Google Classroom and Zoom. For the 2021 year, NUSD personnel will continue to create videos that respond to the needs of parents, students, and community members. In any distance learning program, it's important to track pupil participation and progress. Novato Unified School District teachers will utilize proficiency-based education to guide instruction and provide feedback on student progress. Teachers will use a checklist to monitor student participation and synchronous instructional minutes. Students will be administered in a variety of online assessments, including Galileo Comprehensive Assessment System, which provides item banks, multiple types of assessments, and a student parent portal. This is a new application for NUSD. The NWEA MAP is a state-aligned computer test for ELA, and the ESGI is a one-on-one online assessment for TK and K. Distance learning and professional development. Teachers were offered a variety of training opportunities for programs such as Zoom, Seesaw, and Imagine Learning at the start of the 2021 work year. They were also offered 3 additional paid professional development days to acquire additional training to enhance delivery of online instruction. NUSD's Education Services Department is prepared to provide additional training for programs such as Google Classroom to enhance distance learning. Part of the adjustment of NUSD to distance learning has included changes in staff roles and responsibilities. The COVID-19 pandemic has shocked our education system and forced school districts to find new ways to reimagine teaching and learning. Some of the key changes in NUSD staff roles and responsibility for 2021 are as follows. The Virtual Learning Academy. The Virtual Learning Academy, or VLA, is a fully remote educational opportunity for K-12 students who decide not to return to in-person learning for the 2021 school year. This online community of learners is composed of students, highly qualified credentialed teachers, and 2 administrators. Our health coordinator. Each site will have a health coordinator to strengthen the communication between Marin Health Department officials and NUSD schools. Community liaison. NUSD's community liaisons will work with the prevention coordinator under the guidance of a licensed clinical social worker to enhance assessing student welfare and family outreach virtually. School resource officers and Northbreak Security Services will be offering increased home visits and will be conducted to assess student welfare, and inform families of available community services. It has been important during our summer planning to ensure that NUSD has plans in place to support distance learning for pupils with unique needs. NUSD will continue to provide equitable learning opportunities and high-quality remote services for special student populations, including special education, students with 504 plans, English language learners, socioeconomically disadvantaged, homeless, and foster youth. Special Education Department will provide a free and appropriate public education to eligible students following state and federal COVID-19 pandemic guidelines. Personnel will continue to employ virtual or telephonic platforms to communicate with parents and guardians, to provide students with disabilities related functions on digital devices, and arrange to deliver services virtually or telephonically. Students with 504 plans will be provided with accommodations appropriate to remote learning. These students will be given priority to receive digital devices and ensure connectivity in order to assure online access throughout remote learning. English learners will continue to receive state-mandated, designated, and integrated English language development through virtual small group instruction. Furthermore, Imagine Language and Literacy online programs will be utilized to support English language development. For our socioeconomically disadvantaged families, priority will be given to households who need devices and online connectivity in order to participate in distance learning. Furthermore, organizations like North Marin Community Services, Marin Public Libraries, Marin Promise, and the Healthy Novato Initiative have all worked in conjunction with NUSD to support the needs of low-income families during the COVID-19 pandemic. Foster youth. In addition to providing student services mandated under the law, NUSD has embarked on working with philanthropic organizations and government sources to provide increased supports for foster youth. Homeless students. NUSD's MTSS coordinator will work with families, staff, and community organizations to mitigate the loss of learning and prevent additional trauma for students experiencing homelessness during the COVID-19 pandemic and remote learning. Special attention will be paid to monitoring families experiencing homelessness and identifying new families who are eligible for services. One of the most critical concerns of the pandemic is the issue of learning loss. Like many other school districts, NUSD has faced the beginning of the 2021 school year with both challenging student growth mindset and preparing for COVID-19 induced learning loss. Furthermore, we know that a number of students will experience the emotional consequences of isolation and lack of predictability due to the COVID-19 pandemic that will result in a disruption of their learning. For the 2021 school year, NUSD will continue to strengthen an equity-based focus approach on learning loss during and after COVID-19. Some of the actions we plan to use to mitigate learning loss include establishing protocols to identify and respond to student needs, utilizing multiple sources of data to determine student required level of remediation and emotional support, training teachers to generate learning gains for students, especially disadvantaged populations, making use of family engagement to amplify learning, and planning for future learning recovery. We're very aware that the COVID-19 pandemic has deeply affected some of NUSD students and the delivery of school-based mental health services. In March of 2020, NUSD mental health professionals mobilized to provide students and their families systems that met a variety of mental health needs. This included staff adding COVID-19 information and resources to the NUSD Wellness webpage, communicating with parents virtually through Facebook Live events in both English and Spanish, conducting confidential counseling sessions virtually or by phone. And site principals worked with teachers to monitor which students needed referrals for support from mental health personnel. These safeguards will continue through the 2021 school year. In addition to those actions, NUSD has established a social emotional learning plan. It involves a multiple tiered approach to supporting students in some of the following ways. Tier 1 is strategies and supports which are available to all students every day. This can include things like 10-minute check-ins, utilizing partners like Youth Leadership Institute to build up a sense of community, circle time, and using trauma-informed practices in the classroom to understand, recognize, and respond to the effects of all types of trauma. Tier 2 is for students who may need a more intensive intervention, and school counselors or psychologists will support weekly small group sessions or whole group sessions every 2 weeks. Tier 3 is for students who need the most intensive intervention. For these students, we'll utilize contracted counseling services of the Bay Area Community Resources, or BACR, and North Marin Community Resources, or North NMCS, to provide one-on-one support to students in crisis. Much was done through the end of the 1920 school year to ensure pupil engagement and family outreach. In March of 2020, a multiple tiered approach was used to contact students who did not interact with teachers virtually, send or respond to emails, had missing assignments, and/or showed signals of distress. If a teacher was unsuccessful communicating with a student, school site administrators and counselors used emails, texts, phone calls, and home visits to communicate. If they were unsuccessful, district administration and mental health professionals worked together to contact students and their families. From the onset of the shelter-in-place mandate, NUSD has provided parents and the community rich online resources to support learning from home. To remain informed regarding NUSD's response to the health crisis, and to offer opportunities for families to provide input to district leaders. Now for the 2021 school year, the Senate Bill 98 requires school districts to maintain student attendance and participation records. For our 2021 planned actions, NUSD teachers will produce daily or weekly multi-content lessons for an online asynchronous experience that students access through a web portal. Teachers will use a checklist to monitor student participation and synchronous instructional minutes. The area's attendance system will be used to track student attendance and participation in learning. Teachers will verify that they have provided the required instructional minutes for both synchronous and asynchronous learning on a daily basis. NUSD recognizes that students and their families need more support during remote learning, and collectively, NUSD community liaisons, IT personnel, mental health, and restorative justice specialists, and teaching, classified, and administrative staff will work together to assess needs, help connect families to appropriate resources, and encourage two-way communicating throughout remote learning. The district has worked hard throughout the summer to bolster communication pathways and adopt new digital tools to facilitate a conversation with the community regarding our schools and our students during the pandemic. NUSD has established a central repository of NUSD COVID-related information. A web page containing all things related to COVID-19 has been created for the 2021 school year. Information posted on the web page is available in English and Spanish. This information includes reentry plan and updates, remote distance learning resources, community and district resources for family supports, communication and all related communications, frequently asked questions, and other related areas. For the 1920 school year, school nutrition became very important in March of 2020. Economically disadvantaged and food insecure students have been supported by NUSD's Food Services Department, or FANS. 3 meals a day have been provided to all students under 18 for pickup at secure locations throughout Nevada. Taking all that we learned during the summer, the meal preparation and distribution plan is ready for 2021, and FANS will ensure that on or off-campus students will have access to healthy food in a safe environment. Some of the staff practices and program protocols that are new for COVID-19, including washing hands frequently, wearing face cloths, avoiding touching face, physical distancing from staff and students, and following the mandated food preparation and distribution guidelines. For our remote food distribution, curbside grab and go student meals are offered for consumption at home or throughout the district boundaries. On-campus food distribution must include adequate supplies, posted signs about stopping the spread of COVID-19, physical distancing, barriers, and consideration for shared spaces for cohorts, designated areas for students with underlying conditions, and staggered meal times. And lastly, NUSD has applied our best critical thinking to increasing and improving services for unduplicated students. For the California Department of Education, unduplicated pupils are English language learners, students who meet eligibility requirements for free or reduced price meals under the National School Lunch Program, and foster youth. The Learning Continuity Plan requires school districts to provide a description of how services for unduplicated students will be implemented during the 2021 school year. NUSD will implement our successful actions from the 1920 LCAP to support unduplicated students. For 2021, actions will be tailored to bolster support for students in virtual, hybrid, or in-person learning environment. Some key elements to these actions include NUSD community liaisons will work with the prevention coordinator under the guidance of a licensed clinical social worker to enhance assessing student welfare and family outreach. Counseling services will be provided virtually or in person. Teachers on special assignment will focus on meeting the needs of unduplicated students learning virtually. Intervention software, including Apex and Imagine Learning, will provide remedial support. Data Matters information system will be enhanced to record attendance requirement and monitor student participation for unduplicated students and all learning programs. Advancement. If you would like a more in-depth understanding of any of the elements I've described, please feel free to go to our NUSD website where you will find the Re-Entry Guidance Report. This report is a very detailed document created by our task force and based on research-based instructions. In addition, we would love to hear your questions and comments about the 2021 school year. Please feel free to email me, Dr. Amy Carter, the Assistant Superintendent of Education Services, at my email, acarter@nusd.org. In addition, on our website, we'll have a link to the PowerPoint that you've seen tonight, and we encourage you to respond with feedback if you see any glaring omissions in our plans, or if you have recommendations for how we can increase or improve our services. All the feedback that we receive will be captured and placed in a document online so that you can see the dialogue and our responses to any questions that we may receive. We also want to, on behalf of the entire Novato Unified School District, I would like to express our sincerest appreciation to our students, parents, staff, and community members for your input regarding NUSD's Learning Continuity Plan, both during the summer and through the weeks ahead. We realize that all of us are experiencing a difficult time and that there are many other areas of needs for you in addition to student learning, and we are grateful for your time. We honor each one of you for your resilience, fortitude, and determination that you have demonstrated as we work through this crisis together. Together, we'll fulfill the Novato Unified School mission to engage, inspire, and empower all students in a rapidly changing world to realize their life goal. Thank you so much for your involvement in our NUSD planning. Again, if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, or suggestions for us, please shoot me an email at acarter@nusd.org. We'll capture all of that communication on our website, along with the district responses, so that all individuals in the community can see the dialogue that we've had. Thank you so much for your generosity of time this evening. We hope that you are well tonight. Thank you so much.